Welcome to the Franchise Woman Podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zoracle Profiles. Tracy Kawa, my co-host, is doing an company training all day today, so she's not able to join us, but we have an exciting guest for you. Amy, how do you pronounce your last name?
It's Leclerc.
Leclerc. Is it French?
Yes,
I love it. My name is French too, Monet. So,
exactly.
so I want to meet you guys to meet Amy Leclerc. She's a co-founder and also the VP of franchise sales at Sit Still Kids, a modern, fresh approach disrupting the world of kids' hair care. At the forefront of Sit Still, Amy leads a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who share her vision for cutting-edge, family-friendly salons. With 18 locations open and 30 more on the horizon, Sit Still is rewiring the rules of the industry, one haircut at a time. Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy
I,
to be here.
I'm so happy you are too. Pre-show, I could tell instantly I was going to love you and that we're going to have a ton to talk about.
Feelings mutual.
Woohoo! So before we really jump into the meat and potatoes of things, tell us your story of how you got into franchising.
I think like a lot of people, I got into franchising completely accidentally. I had moved from New York City to Portland, Oregon around 2008 and was taking a bar 3 class in a cool up and coming neighborhood in Portland and fell so hard for this class and this workout. And, it was just sort of filling my soul after such a big life change of moving from Manhattan to my hometown, back to my hometown of Portland. I just loved it and became an instructor. And at that time, the founders had approached me and said, we think we want to franchise this, and you seem like you're into marketing or sales. And like, what do you think about that? And honestly, I think my response was something along the lines of, isn't that what McDonald's does? Like, are you sure you want to franchise? Ew. Um, but they illuminated what franchising meant, which, from their perspective was empowering other people to take the bar 3 blueprint and build it in their own community across the country. And that I could get behind. And I mean, the long story short, like spent the next 10 years helping them to build and scale a international boutique fitness behemoth.
I love this story because more people need to understand there's a mission behind franchising, and that mission is to allow people to be entrepreneurs and build their own business by having a system, a process. You called it a blueprint, which is one of my favorite words, and that's exactly what it is a way for others to go into business that otherwise might not, unless
That's
they
right.
did have a good blueprint. Okay, so jump to where you are today. So bar 3, we grew to
Yeah.
behemoth. What next?
What next? Yeah, it was close to 10 years of what we called, and I've heard it on your podcast before, but it's so accurate, building the plane while flying it,
Hmm.
but actually really learning franchising. How can you not? 160 locations later, it's like, whoa, there's actually like a toolkit here, which is what compelled myself and 2 other women from bar 3 back in 2018 to jump out of boutique fitness and invest in the kids' hair space. At the time, I had 2 little kids, as did my business partners, and was a client at a local kids hair salon called Sit Still. Um, and was introduced to the woman who had founded Sit Still back in 2007. So she had proof of concept for well over a decade. And it's serendipitous. I mean, talking to a founder who had visions and desires to grow and really no clue how to do that. Right time, right place. And created Sit Still Kids franchise, the entity that is now growing Sit Still Kids across the country. So we've been at it, I guess, where are we? Like close to 6 years.
Wow.
There are 4 of us who own Sit Still and are running the day to day. And it's been a wild ride.
I can only imagine. But your experience with Bar 3 definitely brought this wisdom. You didn't just one day decide to franchise. You already had some strong experience of how to make that happen.
Absolutely. Between my partners and myself, we really had all the ingredients for a franchise system, from operations to marketing, sales and development, recruitment, insurance, legal, all the boxes that have to be checked in order to take a brand to franchise, we were able to do. And that felt really good. It's nice to know, oh, like I learned a thing or two, like to take
Yeah.
your experience and apply it to something completely new was really gratifying. And I think absolutely positioned us to like start really strong. Like we had a foundation out of the gate.
Thank you for sharing that because a couple things hit my mind. I want to go one or two directions, so we'll wing it here. First one is I'm wondering the commonality between Bar 3 and Sit Still. You bought into a vision both times. Was there some similarities in those visions that you could say, this is what I was attracted to?
Yes. And I think it's a great question because in a way they couldn't be more different. But what they share is a commitment to a remarkable experience. And that's what I'm attracted to. Walking into any type of business and being wowed and paying attention to the details that I know whoever's behind the scenes is really working hard to ensure that this experience is something memorable and that people come back because that's how you build a business. And both Bar 3 from my first class, I remember walking through the doors, not even knowing what bar was. Like, is this yoga? Do I need a tutu? Like, no clue. But being drawn in because of how beautiful the studio was. Walking into the lobby, like, whoa, whoever is doing this is like onto something. I remember to this day that thought. I had that thought, knowing nothing about who owned Bar 3, if it was a chain, if it, if that was the only location. I had no clue. And really a very similar first time experience at Sit Still, bringing my son for his first haircut and walking in and just like this, whoever is doing this is nailing it. And I don't think or feel that very often. More often than not, I'm critiquing wherever I am because that's just sort of the lens that I see commerce. But when I'm impressed and something sort of speaks to me on a deeper level, I tune in. So I knew Bar 3 was destined to be big. The same way I knew Sit Still, no matter what it was or who was behind the scenes or if it was a franchise or whatever, that it had the right recipe to be something.
Wow, that's amazing. So this whole idea of experience, and that was everything from the aesthetic to the interactions with people to what the service was that you were getting, I think is a really important thing to highlight, because I don't think everyone thinks about that. They just think about providing the service, right? Rather than making it a whole memorable experience where you're looking forward to the next time and the next time and the next time. And with Sit Still, the experience isn't just for you, it's for the little ones.
Right.
So it has to be right for them too.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the second part of that question I had earlier is the four of you that came together and said, okay, Sit Still is where it's at. Were you friends before, or did you recognize individual talents and say, okay, the four of us together with the concept originator, we're going to make a good team? How did you know that?
That's a really good question. And when I met New is the founder, the concept originator of Sit Still, we went and had coffee. We had been introduced. We were on like a blind business date. We sat down and she shared with me what she had built, the success she had had, the trials and tribulations, the challenges. She opened in 2007. Like, it was not all sunshine and roses for the 11 years that she had been at it, but she had built something very remarkable. And in getting to know her and just her vision, and also seeing absolutely where her talents were and where she could use support, I immediately thought of the original team at Bar 3 and who I had built Bar 3 alongside. I am, in any organization, like looking toward the future. I'm the one talking about the brand, getting people excited and bringing people in. But that only gets you so far. Like, what happens when
Yeah.
somebody has signed on? And the women at Bar 3 who ran operations, both from a real estate construction pre-opening perspective, and then ongoing training, how do people mature and grow their business? It was very obvious to me the two other pieces to the puzzle that would be necessary if I was going to make a leap. I would not have done it without knowing operationally we were solid. And so it just became a conversation with these women that, I had really like grown up in the industry with. We were very clear on each other's skills and where we were weak because we had worked together for close to a decade.
Wow. What a beautiful team you put together. But you didn't just build the team, you convinced them. You cast the vision. You took a vision that the concept originator had, and you cast that along with what you saw the future was going to be. And then you recruited these other players to say, okay, we're in. We're going to make this happen. So you're good at casting a vision.
Yeah, thank you. I have strong business instincts, and that just, I'm able to say it because like I've been at it a minute. Now I do have a track record, and it's like, how have we gotten here? And it's really through vision and opportunity and seeing what could be and believing that I am, in any scenario, one very small piece to the puzzle. You can't do anything alone. And how do you complement each other and who you are and what you need to create the foundation and create the plan so that you can actually build something. So yeah, I mean, it was a big deal for all of us to leave Bar 3. At that point, we had really great gigs. So lucrative job, tons of freedom, tons of perks. It was a lifestyle brand. And we had it really good. And I think it's a testament to the opportunity and what we saw Sit Still could be to give us the confidence that it was going to be worth it to jump ship and to start something on our own. We self-funded. I mean, it was a
Wow.
big decision for all of us collectively and individually, you know, as women who were working and helping support families and all that.
Wow. You know, again, you definitely are a visionary, and you're able to take other people's vision and set it on fire, so to speak, really sort of take it to that next level. You don't have to be the inventor of
Right.
the idea. You're the one that scales, replicates, grows, takes it to a whole nother level. And you do so by building a really strong team, recognizing where your skills are, recognizing this is a great opportunity, and then bringing in the people that complement and can build that team. That's incredible. That's just incredible. So let me ask you a crazy question, Amy. Um, when you look back on things, can you see any kind of a thread through your life or a theme or something that plays out again and again? Maybe it's a motto, maybe it's a belief system, maybe it's, I don't know, a vision that you have. Do you have anything that you could say, this is who I am, and this runs through my life again and again and again?
Um, Great question. You know, when I think about that, like my immediate reaction comes to, and it is a mantra, and it's something that I remind myself of over and over again because it's how I've built my life is through meeting new people. Keep meeting people. And it sounds so basic and like, how are we not all meeting new people? But really being deliberate in cultivating relationships and reminding ourselves that there's a big bad world out there and we can get comfortable and we can think we've sort of like checked all the boxes and know all the people. And if you challenge that, it becomes really exciting because for me, as I think about opportunities that have been presented to me, um, they're not in isolation. They're because of other people. They're because of networking and putting myself out there and trying new things, which is another tenet of how I operate in my life, which is taking risks.
Mhm.
And, you know, what might be a big risk to me, maybe not so much to somebody else, but I did learn early on to bet on myself and to put myself out there and um, see what happens. And it's always magic. It
Mhm.
is it can be hard, and doing something for the first time can be so uncomfortable, but that is how you can build a dynamic career and lifestyle. And so, yeah, I mean, now that I'm, you know, well into 2 decades of working, I can look back and say, well, this happened because of this, because of this. They're building blocks. It wasn't linear. My career, I've been employed by so many people and had so many random jobs, and none of it makes sense, but it all kind of makes sense because they all just like led to the next door.
Mhm. Yeah. I want to break those things down a little bit because you have hit three very key points. The first being to constantly meet new people and to deliberately do so and to pursue those relationships. Can you talk a little bit more about that? What popped into my head, let me tell you the reason I'm asking, was this networking, connecting with new people. I got some advice, and now that I'm listening to you, I don't think it was great advice from someone who told me when somebody approaches me to do something together, that I am to make sure that there's equal reason to do so, that they get something from me and I get something from them. If I can contribute more, then they can contribute, that's not a relationship I should be in. I think it's terrible advice, especially when I think about what you're talking about, because we don't always know what those new relationships are going to evolve into. Can you address that a little bit? Why meet new people?
Yeah, and I think by design, it's a real blanket statement. For some people, the traditional networking, going to the local networking events
Mm-hmm.
is going to be beneficial. That's never been my MO. I am kind of a contrarian, just like at my core, everybody's going right. I'm kind of veering over to the left. That's just like, that's what's worked for me, but that is not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I really, as I think about kind of calculating what's in it for me, which is kind of what I heard you say,
Yeah, yeah,
I think that's bringing the wrong energy to the opportunity.
I agree.
And we're all balancing a lot in our lives. Like nobody has time all day to just, go to the coffee shop and like meet everybody that walks through the door. However, doing that has benefited me at times. It doesn't have to be an industry person. It doesn't have to be what's their title and LinkedIn profile. It's simply being out in the world, like absorbing culture.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't know where that's going to go. But I think it gives you more of a worldview.
Yeah, so that relationship itself may not turn into a business opportunity, but it could turn into a friendship that introduces you to a new hobby or
Totally. Or they talk about a new, it's maybe not as direct, but and maybe it doesn't always lead somewhere, or maybe it circles back years later. Like you just don't know. And I think that's okay, but just engaging for the sake of engaging and learning about other people, I
Mhm.
mean, I am fascinated by people's stories, um, career and otherwise. So it is kind of a natural curiosity that I have that has then lent itself very beautifully to the work world because we're all human. Like at the
Yeah,
end of the day, like strip away all the titles and all the accolades and degrees, and like it's a human being and a human being, and like
yeah,
what do we have to share with each other?
exactly. I think to your point, it gives us a more rich and diverse life. I think if we only focus on those folks that have similar backgrounds or similar aspirations or are in a similar industry or whatever, then our learning and our growth kind of stops, and our ability to contribute also stops. So if we're introducing new blood, so to speak,
Yeah,
in the mix, uh, we have a richer, more diverse, bigger life simply because we met this new person.
that's right.
Love it. So, second topic that you brought up that I want to dig a little more deeply is your risk ability, your ability to take big swings. Um, Hello, not everybody can do that. Where does that come from?
I've thought about that a lot because as I've gotten older and in some ways risk has become less risky and then risk has become more risky because I have kids
Hmm.
or at stake. Um, Maybe I have more to lose. But I think back and I think one of the a pivotal decision that I made when I was in college, which was to leave my local college and go spend some time on the East Coast being a nanny. I had this vision.
Oh,
I was like, I want to live on the East Coast. I've been in Portland my whole life. Like, I want to go experience something completely different, and had the safety net of like having a job and a place to live. And how hard can it be, like being a nanny for 3 kids? Well, spoiler, like pretty hard, but I learned that later. But doing that and getting a taste of, okay, by putting myself out of my comfort zone for a summer and going and living with strangers and like doing this random job and getting paid, just opened my eyes. And then,
wow.
New York gets in your blood and like there's no turning back.
Mhm.
I saw what, seizing an opportunity did. Like, I got a new experience. I have new relationships. I have seen what a new lifestyle looks like. And I want more of that. So I think for me, that really was just a very paramount experience, in that if I make a decision and take a chance, good
Mhm.
things happen. And if I didn't do that, those good things wouldn't have happened. So it's just sort of the math of it all. And that brought me to New York more permanently. And I mean, New York will just like make you and break you. So here we are.
So again, it comes back to that word new, being open to something different, something new, whether it is a move, a different career, a new friend, this new whatever. There's this need to experience something that's outside of our normal day to day, with maybe even within our comfort zone, and you're willing to do it. And each time you stretch that comfort zone a little bit, you're growing and you're learning and you're experiencing things that if you had stayed in your comfort zone, you wouldn't have experienced that. New, new.
Yeah. New. I like new. I like new experiences. Change is inevitable. Life is changing for all of us, and we can kind of like hop in the driver's seat and take some control over what those changes are. And, they're not all home runs, but you learn. I mean, I've learned so much.
Yeah. If they were all home runs, I don't think we'd learn as much.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
failure or, oh shoot, that was a mistake, I think is equally good for the human soul and our intellect, is to occasionally make some boo-boos along the way, right?
Yeah.
I've made my fair share. So what great advice. So third topic that you brought up a little bit earlier was this, and I think they may go hand in hand, this ability to trust yourself and trust your judgment, even when there may not be a lot of data that supports that. Can you expound on that a little bit? Not all of us have that same instinct, so I'd like to learn a little bit more how that works for you.
Yeah, and I do think they all do relate and um complement each other, and sort of are each a variation of each other. But I think it goes back to um I'm really able to trust my intuition, and I have strong intuition that has been a muscle that has been flexed as I made those decisions and took some big risks and swings and put myself out there. And either it worked or it didn't, but we're all the wiser because we've had the experience. And that informs then how I'm approaching a new opportunity, um, or a new circumstance, is just really getting quiet, tuning in, and what is like my inner compass telling me I'm not a data person. I'm not somebody that
Mhm.
highly researches anything, like anything. Um, and there's been times where I'm like, oh, I could probably like take this a little more seriously or like do my diligence. But then I like tune in and it's like, no, my gut is telling me it's here. It's here, it's now, it's with these people. And I just go with that. And um, it's served me. So I don't know that everybody has that. I think we all are born with a degree of intuition and just how much we tap into it and trust it, I think is
Mhm.
very case specific. But for me, it's been probably my biggest tool.
For sure. It's allowed you to go meet new people, have conversations, travel all the way across the US to something completely different, go into different businesses and flex in that way. Um, and it's interesting that you say that you think most of us are born with that gut instinct or that intuition. And when we have learned to trust it, the decisions are faster than crunching numbers and spreadsheets and asking a million people. Our decisions are sped up and are usually more accurate, even without the data. Would you agree with that?
100%. And when I hear you describe it that way, it makes me think of people going through the franchise exploration process. And it's like you could talk to every franchisee on the planet. You could have a million spreadsheets. You could have the top attorney and read all the books. And at the end of the day, like that all goes away. What is your gut telling you? What are you hearing inside? I mean, I guide people that way all the time because and you can tell when somebody's intuition is pointing in the direction of moving forward, because then all of the research and the things on the side just sort of bolster up
Mhm.
that like intuition versus drive the decision without any sort of soul participation.
I like how you put that soul participation because I do think it's our soul that's communicating and it's our heart saying this is where you need to be for that ongoing growth to develop you as a whole human being. So I do think there is a soul component to it. It's interesting that you talk about the franchise development part and the prospective franchisee that may be over analyzing, overthinking. We're seeing more of that in these last couple of generations. Um, and I think a lot of that has to do with the internet and so much data and so much information that too much data can actually be overwhelming. You're comparing this to that, to the other, to Joe's experience and Sally's experience, and pretty soon you don't know what's right for yourself. You're not listening to that still small voice. Um, so this is a big aha moment for me because I can go back in my younger years and I could say I had very, very, very strong intuition. And today, because I am in an analytical business, I can't say it's as strong as it used to be. And my decisions are becoming painful. Oh my goodness. Do you have any tips, Amy, on trusting self?
um I think what you just said is so spot on. I think our access to information is a blessing and a curse.
Mhm.
You can outsource your research, your exploration, on your phone, your computer, like there's a million podcasts, like there's so much out there that to be sifted through. And I can see, yeah, where people, it's analysis paralysis. It's like, you want to research a franchise and 3 years later, you're still like looking at the data. And I think my tip is to shut it all down
Mm-hmm.
and really get quiet,
Be quiet.
whatever that means for you. But get quiet, let yourself sit with your own thoughts, see how your body's reacting to the vision of what could be, and tune into that. I mean, I've had so
Mm-hmm.
many people over the years just in my development life. And I know from the minute we like turn the camera on and we see each other, it's her. It's
Mm-hmm.
the energy she brings. It's the confidence that she has. And um, this sense of ease. I
Yeah.
think that's underestimated, but you said it. And I have found that to be very true in my career. It's all work. I mean, these are big decisions like SBA loans and real estate and all the unknown. But if throughout the process, and I think this is something people could tune into, throughout my process exploring, has there been a sense of ease?
Wow.
To tune into that. Is there a roadblock? I just keep hitting this thing that I can't overcome, or I keep coming back to, that's like this thing that's stressing me. Tune into that. It may not be right. That same thing that's a stress for you is something that somebody else is like, yep, but I got it. I can move on from that and I'm looking at the next thing. So I just think, yeah, like tuning in and observing how you're behaving in any sort of exploration is, there's a lot of clues there.
Yeah. Do you ever get, when you haven't listened to your intuition, do you get any feelings after, like, oh, I should have, or why didn't I do that? Do you get that
Oh yeah,
feeling after? Yeah, I do too.
100%. 100. It's happened recently. In addition to my life with Sit Still, invest in emerging franchise concepts. And yeah, I mean, I had an investment that, like, if I had really tuned in, I mean, I can, revisionist history, I can play the tape back and just be like, I didn't get quiet enough. I got caught up. Um, yeah. And I've learned, and I'm again, now I'm on the other side, and it's made me better because I now know, like, that little voice is going to get louder because I'm not going to do that twice,
No, no.
at least that way. So yeah, I mean, it happens to all of us, but 100%. I mean, I felt it literally, physically, um,
It is
felt.
visceral feeling. I get a
Oh
visceral
yeah.
feeling too, especially around real estate investing. Like that property is going to X and Y and Z in the future, and others will laugh at me and will battle me on it or whatever, and it turns out to be just that way. And the regrets when I listen uh, to the naysayers rather than taking the risk as you're able to do. So let's talk for a second about Sit Still. What is it about Sit Still? You talked about the experience. What are you seeing for the future of Sit Still? What is it you want to accomplish as a team?
Um, a lot. We want to accomplish a lot. What is beautiful about Sit Still, and coming from a franchise concept that arguably was much more trend based, boutique fitness saw a huge boom and we rode a really fast wave. Kids have hair, it grows, it needs to be cut, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. We are about as safe a bet from like a business perspective as we were ever going to get.
Mhm.
And so we like check that box. What we are doing differently and where I see our growth and longevity really living in is the experience that you
Mhm.
talked about. Two things sort of happening. One, if you were to lift the hood on the children's hair franchise industry at large and see sort of who's playing in this space, there's very few of us.
Mhm.
Actually shocking. Part of the diligence we did before jumping ship was to look at the industry, and it really was perplexing that, for the data a few years ago was for every kids hair salon in the country that's a franchise, there were like 150,000 kids. I mean, there's just a desert. And there's a few players in our category who have been at it a long time. They're serving a certain category of parent and doing a great job.
Mhm.
Where we saw the opportunity and what was already built in that initial original location that New had built was something more modern, something that spoke to a parent as much as a child. And that's a real key distinction for us, is the idea that while Sit Still, we exclusively cut kids' hair, we're able to surprise and delight parents as well.
Mhm.
And that's through the aesthetic. That's through how we train our staff and our stylists, how we talk to people. I always say Sit Still, and like all the brands I get excited about, is like a feast for all the senses.
Mhm.
It's beautiful. It's the right music. It's not too loud. It's not too low. We don't smell like toxic hair products. We offer rosé and cold brew and sparkling water. There's a little lollipop at the end. There's just all these details that makes it still special. And this task of taking your children for a haircut that normally is seen like a chore
Yeah.
can be something everybody looks forward to. And I think moms in particular, when you think of the experience moms have of rearing young kids and all the obligations and all the things you're doing because you have to do it, we get to be this sort of surprising outing that nobody's mad about. And
In fact, it's pleasurable.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, yes, a kid's haircut. I remember with my kids and grandkids, to have it be pleasurable for both parties, the mama, the daddy, the child, that's saying a lot, which I'm sure makes it for the stylist, also a great environment to be a part of.
yeah. I mean, we are bullish about being a premium brand. We are an elevated experience. We are priced accordingly. We will never compete on price. Supercuts and Great Clips and some of the other chains have done such a good job of building out that sector of this industry. There's really no one playing in the premium kids hair space. That's us.
Yeah.
And it's working. What we trusted our instincts. We are our own client. Like we are the mom. At this point, actually, like our kids are almost too old for Sit Still in the time frame that we've built it. They're aging out, but we know what resonates with our client, and we're able to build a business around that.
So I like that you used the word modern because that is, parenting is different today than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. Children are involved in different things today. So this idea of staying fresh, staying new, staying modern, I think is what does distinguish you. And as you said, this whole idea of the experience, which is what you've been attracted to along the way with Bar 3 as well as Sit Still. So I can't wait to walk into one of these and check
Yeah, we
it
got to get
out.
one to Arkansas.
I know. So, Amy, tell people how they can get hold of you to learn more either about you or learn more about the Sit Still opportunity.
Sitstillkids.com is the best place to start. We have an inquiry form that'll get you right to me. Um, and sits at Sit Still Kids on Instagram. We're really active on social media. Our salons photograph beautifully, which is intentional. So you'll get to see the inside of all of our beautiful salons and what we're up to, all of our events and client highlights and all of that good stuff. So yeah, we're online.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Amy, for joining me today. I loved this conversation. There's several mental notes I've made to myself that I walked away with. This beautiful team that you have built and deliberately built, and the way you cast the vision and got everyone on the same page. And then this whole idea of trusting self, right? Trusting that intuition and continually allowing yourself to do new things and meet new people and take the risks, especially if it lines up with your intuition. So you made some really, really spot on points today. So I really appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the kind words and for having me on. You're a rock star.
You're a rock star.
Takes one to know one.
Amazing. You're amazing. And those of you listening in today, make sure to like, share Amy's interview. It'll inspire many. And of course, we'll see you next week on another episode of the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose come together and relationships are forged and profits are made. We'll see you next week.